What's good, everybody? I'm back with another podcast. A podcast brought to you by the Bucket Getter. I'm here with my host. Today I got Twitter legend Urkel9 on the pod. Say what's up, Urkel. To
Hey,
the
what's going
people.
on?
This is Twitter's most hated. I've done a few podcasts with the bro. He's really educated and loves to hate on Braun and loves the Warriors. Today we're going to talk about the Harden and Giannis MVP race and just who's been having the better season and whatnot. We're also going to talk about the Warriors' chances of a three-peat. And, of course, we're going to dive into the Lakers and LeBron James. Go ahead, introduce yourself, get your plug in, though.
Yeah, so it's Urkel9 on Twitter. Um, you can follow me or just look at my tweets and troll away. I invite it.
All right, so your Warriors, what happened with KD the other night? First off, I just seen everybody was mad at him for only getting up like 6 shots. They had a pretty bad loss to the Pistons. What happened in that game? Because I know you peeped it for sure. I didn't get a chance to watch it, but I know you saw it for sure. I just want to you want to let the audience know what happened though.
I just think it was a flow of the game type of thing. And, like a lot of people were freaking out about it, saying that he he was doing XYZ, blah, 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 blah. But that wasn't my take. Like this year by itself, I just feel like KD, um, like all year I've watched him. One, I think he's miserable, right? Just I think he's on Twitter way too much, and I think he's miserable, right?
Yeah,
I think he's
yeah,
just over it, and it's just fatigue, and he's just tired of it, right? Like I think he checks his mentions, and he just sees like the same nonsense over and over again because they're
yeah,
winning and right? Like I don't think we've ever experienced anything like this before. Like anyone that's watched basketball for I don't know 20 something years, right?
yeah,
Like there's always been hate out there, right? Like I remember watching the Lakers back in the day, right? And everyone just hated the Lakers. Like Kobe got the same thing, but Kobe got it in like a different way, right? Like it
yeah.
wasn't like I'm
Kobe
gonna
was
check my
more polarizing, and it was just more
yeah
national media. Yeah, it's like news
yeah.
attention.
So instead of it coming from Urkel 9, right? It's
Yeah,
coming from one the national media, and two it's coming from everyone on Twitter, right? And KD,
yeah,
we all know he's on Twitter, he's on Instagram, and he's all of that. Like if you have a following and you hate KD, he's gonna see you, right? Like I see the
yeah,
people that KD follows on Instagram,
yeah,
and he'll sit there and then, like if something grabs him and if you have enough followers, he'll comment on it, right? So I
yeah. Most
think like the
definitely.
so I think like the combination of that and him seeing that stuff, I just feel like he's just over it. Like I don't think like and these dudes, right? Like once they get to that level,
Uh huh.
like that stuff kind of bothers them. But I think KD should be over it. But what I have noticed with KD is that he's trying to diversify his game basically, right?
Yeah,
Because 5 years ago he wasn't playmaking like this, right? Like he's trying to become more of a playmaker, right? Like he's trying to take more of a role in the offense and making plays. So if you look at his advanced stats and all of that stuff and all of like the impact stuff,
yeah,
his impact stuff is up there. Like if you look at his on-off stats for this year, where the stuff that Steph used to lead in, he's leading in that stuff now because before he was only doing one thing. He was like, "Give me the ball, I'll score." But
yeah,
now he's like, "Give me the ball, let me distribute, let me do X, Y, Z." So I can see why people would see that game the other night, but I just feel like he was just in a playmaking flow, and other people had it going. Like Stephen Clay kind of had it going. So, I mean, of the three, right? If you're gonna like score, make plays, do X, Y, Z, right? Like he's big enough, he can see over the defense, he can do all of that, right?
yeah,
If he develops that part of his game, and if he wants to just try out in a regular season game, I really don't see the problem. Like I don't see it as like a passive aggressive thing because I think one person, right? Like if you have three people that need the ball and need to score, then you have to have someone else make plays. So that's why when Draymond doesn't score 15 points or whatever, and he only scores 8 points, I don't have a problem with it because he's playmaking. But the problem with Draymond this year is that
he's been horrible on offense. Like
he's been
anything
horrible on offense.
to putting the ball in the rim. Yeah.
Exactly. Like it's not even about him shooting, but just his overall offensive game kind of fell off. And it kind of shows if you pay attention to all those impact stats, like it kind of fell off of a cliff compared
Yeah.
to 2 years ago. 2 years ago was like his best season, right?
2016. Yeah.
So I think it's like a one ball type of situation where it's just too much talent now. Like I think it was too much talent with KD, but KD had a specific role. Like his role was like when you come and you take away Steph, he's gonna cook you, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
is exactly what he did. And when you have like that dude, and you don't have a choice. Like you have to make a decision. It's like, are you gonna play me or are you gonna take away Steph Curry? And taking away Steph Curry is easy. Just take away the 3 point line, right? And you trap him and you do all of this stuff. And then you're leaving KD wide open. So he's getting Harrison Barnes shots and some. And like we take for granted how stupid efficient the dude is. Like he
Yeah.
is stupid efficient. Like he takes the most inefficient shots, right? The most inefficient shots in basketball, like the shots that you're not supposed to take.
Yeah.
And his true shooting and his effective field goal is like top of the league basically, and he takes the most inefficient shots. So when somebody says like, "Is KD the best?" they do have an argument because the dude takes inefficient shots, like the shots that you can't guard,
Yeah.
and his efficiency is through the roof. Now, where they get in trouble is when they play a team like the Rockets, right? And the Rockets just want to turn it into a grind, basically. And then when you're taking away Steph and you have AD taking long twos and the Rockets are taking threes, it's just a math problem, right? So that's where he doesn't do well because the Rockets are fouling him and they're not getting called because, he's bigger than PJ Tucker and PJ Tucker is elbowing him and he's on the shots, he's like elbowing the body. So that's where
Yeah.
they get into trouble. But is he necessary? Absolutely, he's necessary because you can take away Steph, and when you take away Steph, it's saying that you beat me, Draymond Green. Draymond Green isn't that good anymore. You
Yeah.
beat me, Klay Thompson, or you beat me, Andre Iguodala. Now, what Harden and the Rockets do is that they just spread the floor, and it's either they say, and this is why the Rockets lose every year. It's because it's Harden or bust, right? And then Harden is not getting to the free throw line. So they don't move the ball. It's just Harden dribbling 50 times, and then he gets tired and he jacks up the shots, and they only play one way. So
Yeah.
that's why it was so hard against the Rockets, and the Warriors weren't doing smart things. They were like forcing that ball to KD, and then they get into trouble. Now, if KD is a better playmaker out of that this year, I don't think the Rockets win a game. So I don't look at his playmaking as a bad thing. If he's making plays and if he's getting
Mm-hmm.
other people involved and he's not just jacking it up like trying to solely attack the mismatch, I want them to double him. And when they double him, then the help is going to come and then he's going to make the right play. So if he gets those playmaking reps in, I would rather see that. So when people are freaking out and doing all of this stuff saying he's passive aggressive, that's because of his free agency. Now, I'm seeing a dude making, again, like 11 assists in like 3 quarters, basically. So if he's doing
Yeah.
that, it's just another element to the offense. So when he was on the after the game when they were interviewing him there, and he was like, "They're boxing me in." They're absolutely right. So when I was seeing that, I was kind of commenting, and I was like, "That's exactly what I want to see. That's what I wanted to see 2 years ago." But if you look at Steph's assist is down, his is up, and they're like right around in the same. So I don't have a problem with that as long as he's making the right play. Like he's doing like the LeBron thing and he's making the right play. So I want
Yeah,
him to draw in more double teams than he is, right?
yeah.
And then you'll see Steph and Clay and Draymond and
So
whoever
you want KD
get
to
more.
basically like expand his gravity. So like in a sense, drawing more players and just as he draws in more draws in the defense more, use that to then be able to create for others as well. Not just keep looking for a shot every single time. As we alluded to last season, I felt like Kevin Durant when he was playing the Rockets, a lot of the times he just went at whatever mismatch he had. But I feel like as soon as as it got easy for him to score, I feel like that's when you use the momentum to get others involved. So that's a good point. I didn't really think of it like that.
Yeah, like I I was at Game 6 last year, right? And
Yeah,
once I saw them like trying to attack the Rockets like that after attacking them the same way 5 games prior, I was losing my mind because I'm like, this is not going to work, right? Like they're
yeah,
saying, "KD, you beat us," right? And
hmm
it it just wasn't happening. Like they were fouling him, and they're like he's doing post ups, and he's not a good post up player. Like I don't even want to see him posting up because I would rather see Boogie posting up than KD because when he's posting up, right,
yeah,
they push him off the block. They're doing this, they're doing that, and he's not that kind of player. Like he'll post like I remember what was it 2014 the 2014 playoffs, right? I seen
yeah,
them put Chris Paul on him, right? And Chris Paul did relatively well against him. Why? Because Chris Paul is allowed to foul him, right? And
yeah,
that's the problem. So what you think would be a mismatch is not really a mismatch because Chris Paul, because he's smaller, right? He's just allowed to like push him and hand check and do this. He has an elbow in his back, and then he's going up for a shot. CP3 is like sneakily pushing him off. You know what I mean? So and it's
yeah,
never called. Like CP3 is one of those dudes. Like I just don't know what it is. Like if he's a tone does whatever, but he never gets called for the foul. So that kind of stuff happens in the playoffs, and they're not going to call the fouls. So that's why I like when people talk XYZ about the Rockets and Harden doing this. Harden, the only thing that Harden is doing this year is Harden is just shooting more, right? He's just possessing the ball more, and he shoots so many free throws. It doesn't even do justice to how much he actually has the ball because, you know, he gets a free throw. It's not going to count as a shot attempt. So you kind of
yeah,
have to look at the usage, even though and he's at like record high usage, right? So, and, but because he gets to the free throw line so much, it like you look at his true shooting and his true shooting is like 61. Anything over 60 is excellent, right? Like you're top of the league basically. Like I'm on to at 60. But he's
yeah,
shooting like 43% and he's just taking these threes and he like the Rockets have just figured out the math and other people haven't figured out the math, right? So they pretty much have a math advantage. Kind of like what the Warriors had like a few years ago. Difference
yeah,
is that Steph was just like super efficient and they played top 5 defense basically. So that's kind of the difference between the two of them. So when you actually look at like the defense and the offense and all of that, right? That's why
yeah.
I have a hard time like not giving Milwaukee because Milwaukee is killing teams. Like I know people are talking about strength of schedule and all of that, but like they've come out west and they've like beat some teams' asses, you know. So
Yeah, I
it
feel like the Bucks have had some signature wins. I think that if anyone says that they're the best team in the league this season, probably I'll be fine with that, just because of how they've came into different buildings and during the midst of the season. They have really good wins, and I just think they've been playing teams really well, and that whole dynamic of that team has changed drastically. Uh, but yeah, we was actually going to talk about between the difference between the Rockets and the Bucks, I guess. Mainly the two the co-stars, Harden and then Giannis. we was gonna talk about that. I wanted you to dive deeper into the Rockets and their season, and also dive into the Bucks and their season as well, where they both have two fellow players who are bound to be MVP candidates. In my opinion, it's just them two at this point of the season. But go ahead and talk about how you feel like both those teams have been playing this season.
If Giannis didn't exist, and if Giannis, so I look at it this way, right? Like I've seen these dudes before, Kobe in '06 and all of that, and
Yeah.
my thing comes down to this, right? If you win, right? That's the
Mm-hmm.
main point of this whole thing, right? And
Okay.
Harden is winning, but Giannis is winning at a greater rate, right? Like he just is. They're gonna win
Uh-huh.
60 games, right? And the Rockets will probably win what, like 54, 53 games or so, right?
Something like that.
Um,
Yeah.
so to say that they're a better team, they've been a better team all year. Like they're top five offense and defense, right?
Yeah.
Um, they're doing what the Warriors did in 2015, right? To
Mm-hmm.
a slightly lesser extent. And once you start to get where that net rating, the difference, the offensive rating versus the defensive rating,
Yeah.
once you start to get into that plus 9, plus 10 category, right? That
Yeah.
that pretty much means like your all time great, right? Anything over 10, your all time great, right?
Yeah.
And
Guaranteed way.
that's what they're doing. And then when you watch Giannis and like what he's doing on both ends, right? Like his effective field goal percentage is like damn near 60, right? That's like Steph Curry
Yeah.
level, right? And he's not shooting threes, right? Like he's barely shooting threes. It's just around the rim and he's just crushing people, right?
Yeah.
So
I think he's
so
at
that's
like almost 70% around the rim just finishing. And he's got
it
like
was
crazy amount of dunks too.
like he's doing what Shaq was doing in like '99 basically. Like it's something similar to that, right? And then he's the best offensive player, he's the best defensive player, right? So it's kind of funny how you hear people talk about Steph like they're like, "Oh, he's a shit defender, blah 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 blah," right?
Yeah.
But they're not. They won't say the same thing about Harden because Harden is stupid usage and he's taking like a Harden Harden is just taking like a like it's record. He's gonna shoot 1,000 threes, right?
Yeah.
I don't think Steph took 900 threes. I think it was like 882 or something
Yeah,
during his
almost. Yeah, I think it was
campaign,
like around
right?
like that. Yeah, something like that.
It was like 882, I think. Like I was looking at it the other day, right? And Harden is just way surpassed that at this point, right? Like he's taking like 13
Yeah.
a game or 14 a game.
Harden's volume is insane. Some
It's
like we'd
just
never seen it
stupid
before.
volume. Yes,
Yeah.
so I'm not gonna knock it, right? If you're shooting 35% and you're getting to the line, you know, 11 times a game, like no one else has done that before, right? Like that's a
And
new
also just
lane
off
basically.
heavy like just dribble penetration isolation. For our one end, it's something like we've never really seen it before.
Oh, it's
The
dumb,
high
man.
pick and roll, it's crazy. Yeah.
It's stupid stuff. So I'm not gonna sit here and knock it. Like I just don't think it's gonna work come playoff time, right? Like it just won't work. Like I know exactly what's gonna happen. The refs are gonna get tight with the whistle, and that's just how it's gonna be, right?
Yeah.
So I know exactly what's gonna happen, and it happened last year. And then when you look at his numbers, right? So everyone's numbers falls off come playoff time, right? Like there's probably like a 10%, 5% drop off, right? So
Yeah, give or take.
Harden last year had like a true shooting of like 60, I don't know, 61 last year. And then you looked at his true shooting in the playoffs, it was like 56 or something, right? So
Yeah.
it like everyone takes a drastic drop off basically, right? And then they played so ugly in that Western Conference Finals, like everyone's numbers dip basically, right? Because they're like, we're gonna turn this into ISO, and this is how it's gonna be, right? So,
Yeah.
but I'm watching them right now play, and like it's just going to be a bloodbath, basically, right? Like it's just going to be an ISO bloodbath and mismatch and try to
Mismatch Hunt
find
in it.
yeah, like
How do you
like
feel
that's
about
all
how
it's
do you
going to be.
feel about that? Because they do got to play Boogie Cousins, and how do you feel about them? Because I feel like they'll pretty much go at Boogie's neck whenever he's on the court. How do you feel about his overall presence? What he can do to counter that, and just about the series within itself. I heard you said they was gonna get them out the way pretty much earlier in the segment. Tell them about how you feel about how they gonna match up with your team.
I think if the Warriors, if the Rockets want to get into a bar fight, right? I
Yeah,
don't think it's their best interest to get into a bar fight because what they're gonna do, like you saw it that one game, right, where the Warriors they beat them without KD, right? And the
yeah,
Warriors kind of showed you they're like, okay, you want to turn this into a bar fight? We can turn this into a bar fight, and it didn't work out well for the Rockets. Like I know they came back and all of that, right? And like Harden made some shots, Steph made some shots, right? So on TV, like I heard everyone saying, if Harden, like I heard Max Kellerman saying that if Harden had made those shots, did he realize how many open shots Steph missed? Steph missed like 4 open shots down the stretch, right?
hmm
So if those shots go in, like and then you're gonna have that KD factor. He's gonna come back. Like on both ends, I I just think there's just too much talent, right? And then they're gonna mismatch hunt. Like I don't think that's the team to mismatch hunt. And like they could do it last year because they had Looney and Looney and Bell, right? In
yeah.
Bell's role, then you're gonna have Iguodala now. Like that series changed last year when Iguodala left, right? Because it was just one less elite defender. Like it was like less elite wing defender. Like CP3 or Harden was not scoring over Iguodala, right?
Yeah.
And he's gonna be there. Like he's gonna be fresh. So like if they go into the playoffs and they have all their wings healthy against the Rockets, they're not gonna stand a chance. Like I don't think they're gonna win more than 2 games. I
So you
promise you. I promise you, it won't be like last year.
five-game
Like
series.
I think it's a 5 game series. If if all else holds steady and no one is hurt and all of that, like no weird shit happens like last year. Because if they
Okay, okay.
think their best offense is what, like Harden dribbling 3 times and then stepping back, like, are you kidding me? Like you have so so here's the thing, right? Like the Rockets win a lot of games because James Harden is great, right? He most nights he's facing a guy on the other end and they're turning it into one-on-one basketball basically, right? He's having a
hmm
guy that he's facing every night that he's more efficient than, right? The virtue of
Yeah.
free throws and those step back threes, right? Those step back threes are a weapon for Harden. And I've seen it like the last month or so where the refs are calling it different because it's kind of brilliant what he does, right? He sizes you up, right? And then he steps back, right? But when he steps back, he does like this little subtle thing where he's launching himself into you, right? Like he's doing a step back and then he's kind of warding you off with his legs, basically, right? Like he jumps and then he shoots the ball and he's launching himself into the defender. So what people have been doing, they've been attacking his left hand basically. Like they've been attacking his left hand and avoiding like him launching into you and then drawing the free throws, right? So I
Yeah.
saw Drew Holiday do it first, like and Harden like shot like you know he probably made like two out of 15 threes or something like that. So I think once teams study the film and they start to attack like a player in a certain way, we'll start to look at it differently. He'll look a lot differently. But they're just not going to show like their best stuff yet. You know what I mean? So
hmm
um, what Milwaukee might lose tonight because I think they've just been like ravaged with injuries and all of that, right? But it's probably going to be a close game tonight. But they're just not going to stop Giannis. They have to stop everyone else.
Yeah. And we talk about Milwaukee. There's other contenders in the team in the East as well. Teams like the Sixers, the teams like the Celtics and Toronto. How do you think Milwaukee would fare off against those kind of teams? And do you think that they can make the finals?
I think they can make the finals. I just think people are just looking at the experience thing and all of that.
Yeah,
But they're just a much better team than they were last year, right? They're just a way better team.
yes.
The the
Thematically and
the
talent wise, they're much better than
the,
they were last.
the injuries might hurt them. Brogdon did a lot of things for them. Like it was like a 50, 40, 90 dude. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
that might hurt them. And he was like a really good defender for them as well. So if you lose a dude like that, it's definitely going to hurt. It's going to hurt you at some point. So I think the chances for them to collapse, I could see them collapsing, but I also see them. I could see them just wiping through the East, basically. Like I think they're that good. Like I make it a point to watch all their games,
yeah,
and they're running things right. Like last year, it was just here Giannis, here's the ball, right? But like everyone is involved, and like they're kind of like Warriors 2015, right? But the only thing is like you don't have Steph taking 28 footers. You have Giannis dunking the ball every damn time. So and then you have
yeah,
shooters around him. So I mean, if you have that combo, I mean, it's kind of deadly, right? So um I think they have a good chance. But Philly, I could see it going. Philly is really talented. Again, you're gonna need a big man in the playoffs, and I think Embiid, the way he draws fouls is is kind of crazy.
yeah.
Boston
It's
is gonna
pretty.
struggle this year.
And not
I know,
only is it crazy that he draws the fouls, but at the rate he makes free throws in for a big man is like spectacular.
yeah, he's ridiculously skilled.
Yeah,
He's ridiculously skilled. So, um, I I just don't like everyone's kind of just giving Boston the East just regardless, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, hold on a second, like, have you been
yeah.
watching them? Like,
I 1,000% agree. I just feel like the Celtics, as far as this season, has just been given too much of the benefit of the doubt. Because for one, that number two still hasn't really been consistently established on a night-to-night basis with them. I also feel like, well, I mean, I don't think it's gonna be a problem in the playoff time, but just looking at it in the spectrum, um, Kyrie is not being a 30-point guy this season. Um, has disappointed me, just because, yeah, as a guy that's coming from 2 seasons ago, coming from averaging 25 with LeBron, I expect the numbers to increase, and it just feels like as if certain times Kyrie doesn't take over the game or put his impact in the game for a full 48 minutes offensively. And just overall, I think the Sixers have a better roster accumulated at this point in terms of just starting five matchups. Yeah, you can debate who you think the best player is between Kyrie and Embiid. But as far as this season's production wise goes, yeah, I think Philly for sure has the second, third, fourth, and fifth best player in the series, which would kind of like almost negate the fact that they have the best player in the series going to the series like that with Kyrie. I just feel like the Celtics might be in trouble and they could be in danger for a second round exit if they play. Um, but
I think the Celtics, they know how to play the Sixers, right?
yeah,
Um, but it just depends on who kind of gets the ball down the stretch, right? So
yeah,
if it's like Jimmy Butler and he's attacking Kyrie on mismatches, like kind of what happened in the last game, I
yeah,
could see that going the other way. But um, it's a tough one, man. Like it's a tough one for it's a tough one for Kyrie. What happened to him the last game? Like he was getting targeted down the stretch, and I'm like, oh my god, like
Yeah,
you
that too.
know.
Yeah, they for sure were going on Kyrie. And what they're one of the teams that has the personnel to do it. Just out the fact that Boston's so good schematically, just like defensively, that they can even hide Kyrie's deficiencies and even put Kyrie on like the weaker off guards. But then like the worst case scenario is having him run around chasing JJ all the time. So I don't know. But one thing that Philly doesn't have going for them is depth. They're probably like, in terms of like all the teams that can potentially contend, they have the weakest depth, but they also have the strongest unit. I think their starting five net rating is crazy. I think it's at like something like plus 20. Granted, I mean they don't have the full like it's not a heavy sample size compared to other like starting lineups and whatnot, but it's still crazy that they're like at the top in that regards, and they're at the top by a pretty wide margin. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, but I also think in terms of Milwaukee, this overall season, how they drastically changed from a team that relied solely on Giannis' skill and a team that looked like they were playing ancient history basketball like a season ago, drastically changed through role players and just getting a bunch of guys that fit a system and a system that works really well in today's NBA, especially when you have somebody like Giannis who can finish anything at the rim just because he's a specimen. Um,
so so that's an interesting point, right?
yeah,
And so on a stat or a number isn't gonna quantify what you just said, but that's a part of the MVP to me. Whenever you have a player, right,
yeah,
and other players are producing based off of his action, right,
hmm
that's more valuable than you stepping back 13 times a game, right? Like that to me is value, right? Like,
yeah.
and
So
you
that's
can't
your MVP
quantify it.
case then, right? So that'd
That's
be
my
MVP
MVP
case
case
for
right
Giannis.
there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, don't get me wrong. Like, I know I sound like a Harden hater, right? And I probably am, right? But the Bucks have the best record for a reason. Like, it's not it's not just because Harden is putting up these stats. Like if you shoot the ball a lot and you're that good, right? You're that efficient. You're gonna put up these stats, right? Like
Yeah.
if you have ridiculous usage, right? Like Kobe had like 27 shots, right?
hmm
That wasn't my favorite Kobe season. Like my favorite Kobe season when I just think he put everything together. Like teammates got involved and they played team ball was like that '08 season, right? Like
Yeah.
that's when I thought Kobe was at his absolute peak and everything kind of like fell into place. Like people got involved. He played well. He put up his stats and all of that. I think it was '08, right?
Oh
In the
yeah.
playoffs, same thing in the playoffs. Like I think that was actually his best playoff run in 2008. Like I think he had everything working.
I think 2009. Me personally, I felt like 2009 was a little bit better. Just because they got the window. That's just because I'm a fan personally. But yeah,
Yeah. If you look at it from that standpoint, but I'm talking about just Kobe
regular.
individually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
As
like
yeah.
dude, he had everything going, man. Like he had the mid range, like he had like the face up mid range game, right? And when
hmm
you're doing that in like a dogfight series and you're hitting that shot, you're virtually unguardable, right? And then you had Gasol on the block and he was drawing a double team, and then you had Ariza. Well, Ariza was out that year, but in '09 you had like him shooting threes and all of that. Like it was kind of unstoppable. So um, it's gonna happen, and then Jesus, like Giannis is just unstoppable. He's just putting PJ Tucker on his back.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so stupid. They had like three people around him, and he still dunked the ball. Like, but that's what I'm
yeah.
talking about.
Yeah. Stuff like that. Yeah. Also, because as much as as historic as Harden's season has been in terms of volume and scoring, Giannis's other overall like just accumulated numbers is also historic. Like no one's getting 27, 13, and 6 with a block and a steal in a game. That's not happening in NBA history. So his season is also is historic in its own right as well.
He does have a higher PER too. So
yeah,
I mean, I don't like to use PER, but I think when you get to those types of players, you get to like the Harden and the Giannis and all of that. I think that's where PER comes into play because it's similar usage and you're doing a similar type of. Well, Harden's usage is just crazy, but I just think it's like top guy versus top guy, and he's doing it in less minutes and you know what I mean. So he's more efficient than Harden. Like you know, when you just look at it, right? And he's just taking less, and his team is winning more, and he's playing better defense, right? So I just don't see how the media can just give it to Harden. Like they're gonna have, and I know it was injuries and all of that, right? But they're probably gonna have like a 10-game drop off from this season to last season, right? Like that's a lot of games, right? Like that's a lot of games, and you can make the argument that he had to save his team and he had to do all of this, but I mean, it's just pick up basketball.
The Rockets did have their injuries. Chris Paul missed a whole lot, and so did Capella. And in the midst of that stretch, Harden went crazy, starting like averaging like 40 on everybody.
He did go crazy, but the way I look at it, he went crazy, but he plays that way regardless, right? And I think Harden, I think he's one of like 3 or 4 people, right? Who you can just say, you put them on any team, right? They're like a top five offense, right?
Yeah.
Like automatic walking top 5 offense, right? I used to think that was LeBron before, but you kind of have to have like specific people around LeBron. I think you could do that with Curry. And now you're seeing that with Giannis as well, right?
Yeah.
So I think like the people who are like the top 5 people in the league, right? I think the people who you can just put them on any team and they can be a top 5 walking offense, right?
They're never list.
Curry is one of them. Harden is one of them. LeBron is. I'm not so sure about LeBron anymore, and and you have Giannis as well. KD, I am not sure about KD. I saw it years ago, and you have to have shooters probably around KD to probably. So him and LeBron would probably fall into that same thing where you have to have like a specific type of team around him. So if KD had like the Cavs around him, right? Like the Cavs last year that had all that shooting, it could be possible. But it's depending on shooting because they're just going to spread the floor and, you know, they're just going to attack and the defense collapses and they kick to a shooter. The shooter makes a shot, right? So it has to be like that. KD is not dynamic like Steph, where Steph is going to like run off screens and have other people make plays and, you know what I mean? And then he can attack you and pick and roll and do all of that, right? So Steph can do everything, right? Everyone else, it's more like a spread the floor type of thing. I'm going to attack. Giannis is just like dunking over everyone, right? So you can even leave a shooter alone, like he can just run into a double team and just dunk it. That's the type of stuff that LeBron used to be able to do. He can't necessarily do that anymore, I don't think. LeBron can still get us, and let's talk about LeBron for a second, right?
Yeah, okay, let's talk about Bron then. Go crazy.
Let's talk about Bron. So when they didn't surround LeBron with shooters, right? And they tried to be Golden State because when they're like, oh, we're going to surround Bron with a bunch of playmakers, That's a flawed
Yeah.
concept, right? LeBron doesn't operate best off ball, right? That was their theory. Get some playmakers, and those playmakers aren't going to be shooters, and we're going to just have LeBron do his thing, right? And
Yeah.
all teams did is that they just lagged off the shooters and just collapsed on LeBron, right? And it's just a series of bad things that happen with the Lakers, right? Like, I think the Lakers had a good team, but what they should have done with the vet spots is that they should have just added shooters. I think if they had shooters with those young dudes could manufacture a top 10 defense, right? They
Yeah.
did. They did last year and they did again this year, right?
We did do
Um,
that. That's the one thing we did do. Yeah, play defense.
the defense was good last year, right? So that's
Yeah.
why when people say, "Oh, the Lakers blah 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 blah," all they needed was like a LeBron kind of player. So I think they were good enough, but it was a combination of injuries at the wrong time, the schedule, the schedule landing the way it did. Because with the LeBron team, what they do is that they backfill the schedule, right? Like they do it every year. So LeBron always has like a bunch of TV games, right? When he
Yeah.
has those TV games, the better teams are going to be at the back half of the schedule, and that's exactly what happened. So you're seeing these TV games now against like the Bucks towards the end of the year, against the Warriors towards the end of the year, against what I mean. So
Yeah.
so a lot of those games were there, and those are the tougher teams basically. So they just ran into the fact that LeBron wanted to trade the whole team. That's one factor. The dudes
Hmm.
stopped playing defense because they're like, you know what, I'm probably gonna get traded, so let me get my stats, right? Let me get my
Uh-huh.
stats and I'm gonna stop playing defense. That's exactly what happened because their defense fell off like in the biggest way. So if they had seen the Rockets in the playoffs, they probably would have beaten the Rockets if all of those injuries and turmoil and all of that didn't. Because LeBron versus Harden in a playoff series, I think that would have been a problem because Harden is not going to see those free throws, and LeBron is going to just be as efficient as he was in the regular season, right? Harden is
Yeah.
not going to be as efficient. So that's pretty much what it's going to come down to. Defense is going to hold on both sides, but when you're asking LeBron to drive to the rim, like who the hell on the Rockets was going to stop him? Nobody's going to stop him, right?
Yeah.
But they made a mistake like not getting shoot. They should have never gotten Rondo, right? They should have just kept Lonzo.
Hell
Lonzo
no, they
was
should never got Rondo. Oh, Rondo.
Lonzo Lonzo was locking people up the first part of the year. He was on people, right? And it's not
Yeah.
like, oh, he had to like initiate the offense and he had to blah blah. He had to take. All you were asking him to do was just to make plays and lock people up, basically, right? And that's exactly what he was doing. So it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to say that Harden would have outplayed LeBron in the series. Now, in a regular series, when Harden is going to the line 15 times a game, right, and he has like that math thing, like has a true shooting, he's going to be on par with LeBron, right? But in like a close series when they're not calling it, it's another ball game. LeBron is just going to outstrength you basically, right? So I think it would have been tough in a playoff series against the Lakers. Now things just fell wrong, and he tried to get everyone traded, and it was just a combination of bad things, basically, right?
Yeah.
Um, it 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 was a calculated risk to try to get AD, right? And LeBron puts that pressure on you,
Yeah.
but it got a little bit too public, and it just killed these young dudes basically. So I mean, and then Ingram, that happened unfortunately. So a bunch of bad things just happened, right?
Yeah.
But I think LeBron, what he should have done is that he should have just said to Magic and them like, listen, we're this good right now. let's just play out the year and see how things go, because it was going pretty well. It was going relatively well. I think they would have landed somewhere in like the fifth or sixth spot or something like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But once his injury occurred, and then you're seeing him in the tunnel, like like in the first half, he's on the bench and he's like clapping the dudes on, and then when they blow the lead, he's in the bench with Palenka, and then that's going to be on First Take, Undisputed in the morning, and the dudes are seeing that, and he
Yeah.
it's not an easy dude to play with. You know what I mean? So I mean, him not winning, like there's a reason why things happen like that. Like you need all those dudes to win. You know what I mean? And I don't think he fosters like the greatest atmosphere, because there's always that pressure, and you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if you miss an open three with them,
You're
right?
already getting boiled for it.
Like
Yeah.
yeah. Like he'll freeze you out like the rest of the game. Like if you miss an open three, and the psychology behind like an open shot, like sometimes it's better you have a defender in your face half the time, you know?
Yeah.
So I mean, I think it was just a combination of it just being a tougher conference, because it is a tougher conference, and you can't take games off in the
Yeah. In
you
the
just
West.
can't take games off in the West, because you know the Warriors, as much as they've dogged it, like they have talent to kind of turn it up and turn it on, right? And their best player, like his goal is to get everyone going. Like he's gonna set a screen for you. He's gonna run off picks, and you're gonna chase him off picks. The defense is gonna jump, and then you just roll to the rim and you get a layup. Like that's what he's doing for you right now. LeBron
Yeah.
is like drive and kick, and that's all he's gonna do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and they play defense, so it's like they're all botting, and they're playing defense, and they have these three excellent players, right? So the Lakers didn't have that luxury, right? They're kind of a flawed team. They don't have shooting and all of that. So,
Yeah.
but they should have emphasized defense, and there's no emphasizing defense with LeBron. You know what I mean? Like there just isn't. So
Yeah.
that's that's actually a problem. Daniel House is
Yeah.
taking step back threes. That's ridiculous. Oh my god, the freedom that these dudes have is like, this dude was in
Yeah.
the
They
G
play with a
League
lot of
last year. He's
freedom.
like sizing you up, and he's like, let me see that shit fall in the playoffs. That shit will
uh,
not fall in the playoffs. Daniel House will not be sizing you up and taking step back threes. I guarantee it. That's crazy.
Hell nah, we will live with that one. Yeah, about the Lakers season. One thing for sure that I agree with was that the roster was built horribly. Um, yeah, you just can't go into the off season with no real game plan aside from get Braun. It just felt like that's what the front office did because we came into the season and our Rondo's our point guard. I mean, we play guys like Lance Stevenson. We have to play them off the bench like heavy minutes. Also, we have no backup center. So like a 6'8" random like 4-man in Gazanga. That was probably the center for their team. That like
Yeah.
a 4-year guy just comes onto our roster and is our backup center. Like that's no good. And then we gotta go back and sign Tyson Chandler. So that's not a good look. I think right now the Lakers front office has to really like prove that they can do something before it gets real scary. Because just even if you look at all the players we've lost in the process of trying to build this team or trying to build for this vision, this like we have like LeBron James and we're gonna have like a bunch of talent around LeBron James. We didn't do good. We didn't do a good enough job honing a talent for the superstar like LeBron. I feel like the obviously with LeBron you get a lot of media attention. You're not gonna go through a season without LeBron putting your team through something or him saying something, some kind of subliminal message going along, and it's annoying as a fan to hear that, but. At the end of the day, it's just the name of the game, especially with how media works. They're gonna run with it, I guess. But overall, yeah, as well. As far as this season goes, really injuries hurt us a lot. I feel like just I mean, just when you based off the factor that, like you said, you had a guy like Lonzo who was peaking defensively. Early on in the season, he was one of the best defensive guards in the league. I felt like, almost worthy of All NBA recognition type defense. And then you had guys as well in the team. Ingram was getting off at a certain point before his whole little injury with his shoulder and everything. At post suspension and post the injury and all that, he was averaging 20. So I feel like he for sure. I feel like the way Ingram emerged this season is for sure something that we should be looking forward to going forward, because I really like the way that Ingram showed out in spite of all the drama and in spite of the whole Braun thing. He really showed out and emerged that, hey, I'm here and I'm in the league. Kuzma had his moments as well, but I feel like Kuzma was a little bit more up and down, a little bit more of a roller coaster. But I feel like the core that they wanted to develop with Braun did their part for the most part, aside injuries. I really just feel like if we had built a better roster around this team, this roster could have maybe, had a couple more wins here and there, or maybe during this run where we do have Braun, but we have other players to play around with Braun, because maybe a guy like Lonzo has a season-ending injury, or maybe a guy like Ingram goes down. Just somebody to depth to replace the guys that are there. LeBron this season, I don't know. If everyone's alluding to the 28, 8, and 8 stuff, and I guess I get where they're coming from, but I didn't really get the explosive Braun that you normally get in the midst of these kind of games, or in the midst of an animosity. It just felt like he would just went kind of almost in cruise control. Even like, because when he came back, we were a 9th seed, and it was a chance that if the playoffs was possible, it was definitely possible. And even in the midst of that, Ingram had a stretch of where he was playing better and giving you consistent 20-point games. I feel like
those dudes stopped playing for each other, man. Like
yeah,
after all of that went down, they stopped playing for each other, and sometimes I just think LeBron, like, he just needs to relax and just take a back seat and not do the extra shit that he's doing, because he knows what he says. Like, he knows like anything that he's kind of like KD, right? Like, anything that he says, it's gonna make news, right?
yeah,
So
most
sometimes he
definitely.
just, like, I think he came to LA this year, right? And like, he was just everywhere, right? And like, when you look at that bench, right, and you saw him like showing up to the games and all of this, right, and he had like his coffee mug and all of this stuff, right? I guarantee you there was fucking wine in that fucking coffee mug, no doubt. And he was like so stuff like that, like he was like, I'm here, I'm LeBron, I'm doing it, you know what I mean? So I don't think he was on the ball this year.
Yeah.
I just don't think he was, like, but I mean, for playing so long and like just going through the grind every year, like, I just think like he was just in a mode where you're like, oh my god, let me just relax mentally, you know what I mean? Like, and I just think he just kind of took a break this year, and you can't take a break in this conference, and his team wasn't that. I'm not gonna call them not good. I just think they weren't as experienced, right?
Yeah.
To kind of like ward off all of those challenges, basically, right? Because if you get the game close, towards the end of the game, like, he can typically take you home, because more times than not, he's the best player on the floor, right? So
Yeah.
he's he's going to take you home, and he was kind of doing it towards the beginning of the season, right? Like, it is impressive, but he takes a break on defense, and he was kind of doing like the Westbrook thing, like in 17, where he wouldn't close out on shooters, right? Like, and he was just camping out under the glass, but because he's so big and he can get like those assists from the pinch post with just people just cutting, he's just he was just racking up the assists, right? But that's kind of how good he is, right? So he can rack up those stats, and he can
Yeah.
just overpower. So I think next year if he comes back and he's just more focused and they have like more shooters around him, they can make more noise. But I don't think it was a bad team for him necessarily. I just think they did need Lance, right? They did need
Uh,
Rondo, right?
yeah,
They should have just kept it with the young dudes and just added like
better
a few vet
complementary
shooters.
pieces.
Yeah, like they probably should have
Yeah,
kept Lopez. I kind
probably
of
should have
get
brought a
why
better
they.
center in, though. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
if
Just the
they had
center.
Randall, if they had Randall, I would have had concerns about that team because they would have just been a beast in the paint. Because if you look at what Randall did last year in the paint, what Randall was doing in the paint last year was just absurd. He shot like his field goal percentage last year was like 55%, right? And he was
Yeah,
just killing people. So if you have a dude just eating on the block like that, and then you have LeBron, I mean, they probably should have kept him. And he's a good defender too. I mean, it's not like he can't defend, you know.
yeah, most definitely.
So travel. Okay, here we go.
It was just unfortunate what happened to Randall. I from the start we kind of treated Randall bad. So our relationship with him was pretty off. But he did all that last season, and it was It was in the lowest amount of minutes he played. Pretty much, well, like his entire run with us. I think that was the lowest amount of minutes he played for our team. Obviously, except his rookie season where he had the injury, but he did that in like 27 minutes. Um, we were benching him for Larry Nance Jr. for like a good chunk of the season. So we did a bad job with our relationship with Randall as well going into the season, especially because it was his contract year. So I mean, maybe
Yeah,
we couldn't have, and whether we could or couldn't have brought him back, I don't really know. But the foundation of that was on us though, because that was our fault that we did that to him to begin with.
a lot of those dudes are like top five picks, man. I mean, like
Yeah, a lot of them, bro.
to
It's just,
to to not cash them in is it's 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 kind of tragic. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
and
because
then they're
pretty
gonna
much
go on.
since 2013 we've been losing, and in the midst of losing, the one thing that you get like beneficial for losing is that top draft pick. You should probably cherish it for as long as you can.
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of tough to like. Then you have Russell. Like I know people thought Russell was this and he was that, but when you're when you're not like I almost wish Russell didn't have that incident, right?
Yeah.
Because what he can do, he can create, he can shoot. He has like that herky jerky James Harden thing, right? So
Uh-huh.
you're telling me that this dude couldn't get 10 or 10 or 20% better? I mean, and then you have Lonzo and like I like Lonzo's game. I do, but maybe you could have selected another wing or somebody else, right? Like it it's just unfortunate, right? But then again, it kind of it. I'm I'm saying all of this, but I do like Lonzo's game. Lonzo is like a point guard Draymond almost. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
like how he kind of does everything. So I'm saying that about Russell, but I mean to not cash all those players in and then you have them leave the team and then they're good
Yeah.
elsewhere. I mean it kind of looks bad on the organization, but when you just have so much turmoil with Jim Buss and them giving those awful contracts and then you
Yeah,
know
that too.
if you look at how like a large market team makes mistakes, right?
Hmm.
They have made every large market team mistake possible, right?
Pretty
Um,
much, yeah.
they should have just hired someone solid, get get the trust fund baby out of there, right? They shouldn't have hired Magic, right? Magic was like the guy who was like he has a nice smile and he can get us free agents. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he didn't know anything. Like that's how that's how you have that Zubac thing happen, right? When you just don't have experienced people, right? I was
Hmm.
watching Zubac on Christmas, and I was like, "How is JaVale playing over this dude?" You know what I mean? Like he's
Yeah.
actually a skilled dude. You know what I mean? So So that's how you lose a dude like that. And then Zubac is playing well for the Lakers, or for the Clippers, and I'm like, that was just an awful trade, you know. And it was to what,
Yeah,
appease JaVale? Is is that even true? Like,
I hope I hope it wasn't true. They said that the main thing with the only thing that there was an issue with was the Michael Beasley and Luke Walton thing. JaVale came out and said it wasn't true, but which I hope it isn't true because that would be horrible.
JaVale is
Just to
a
trade because of JaVale McGee's thing, like that would be,
JaVale is a situational player, right?
yeah, most
But
definitely situational.
he cannot evaluate defense to save his life, right? Like if he could get the defensive thing down where he's
That's
supposed to switch when he switches, he's supposed to hedge like the reads that he misses defensively is why he didn't play more on the Warriors, right?
or even
When
just box out and rebound every now and then
but
instead of
oh my
jumping at
god,
everything.
like he jumps at everything,
He tries to
like
block every single shot, and it's
and
like,
that's his problem. Like he'll block a lot of shots, right? But if he were
and
more
then it gets
sound, like,
problematic
oh
because
my god, it
then
it
we're
it
just all out of position, and yeah,
um Whiteside was like that like a few years ago. He was just blocking everything, and then he was just out of position, right? Like if JaVale was sound defensively, right, where he actually got it, um, his defensive stats, right, like his advanced defensive stuff would be so much better. But because
yeah,
he's
most
just
definitely.
always out of position and he doesn't box out, like
Had to do
he
anything
doesn't
with
do those
IQ.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah, like it's rough for him. So I find it hard to believe that, see, those step backs aren't falling when you have like tall defenders over you. That's that's rough. That's a rough one, man.
yeah.
Pat Connaughton. Oh, that's a tough turnover. At least it's in the corner. Um, but I I think I think the playoffs are going to be interesting. I think the Rockets. I think the Rockets are just going to do what they do, right? Until they run into a team who can guard Harden, like on those step backs. You
How many
know,
teams do you think can match up with that in the West right now? So, like,
um,
say,
I
what do the standings look like right now? I think the
I know OKC isn't playing well, um, but they don't want to see a team like OKC, right?
yeah, OKC
Um,
would match up for sure. They're the
they
AC now. Holy shit!
they don't want to
Oh,
see
OKC's
OKC.
AC. Yeah,
I think Paul George's shoulder injury kind of like really hurt that team. There's something going on with him. Like once I think his shoulder injury is a lot more serious than they're actually leading on, because it
yeah,
almost forced Westbrook into taking more shots, right? If
yeah,
Westbrook if Westbrook truly did that Jason Kidd thing, right, and fully committed to it, he would he would
he
he
would
would
average
probably
like
be ranked.
15 assists, not 10. Most definitely.
Yeah, like he just needs to fully commit to it and stop taking like seven threes a game. Like there's no reason why he should be taking seven threes a game. Like it's absolutely absurd, right?
Yeah,
Um and he needs to just do more off ball. Oh no. James Harden against you. Oh, he actually blocked him and he didn't call a foul.
yeah, they're pushing
That's
him
another thing
mad
too.
right now.
Harden gets away with a lot on these post ups. Like people try to target him. It's not too smart to try to target Harden on post ups because he gets away with a lot. You know, like PJ Tucker can't guard this dude, man. Come on, man. Giannis is like Shaq. Like he has what, 13 points, 6 of 10, 8 rebounds,
Yeah,
and they're just in a passing lane, man. Like this is the thing with Milwaukee. Like people are saying about experience and this and that. Um, they're just arms and arms. You know what I mean? Like they get into every passing lane. I hope they lose because I have a yearly ritual where I just know like the last week of May, I schedule my vacation at work, and like that first weekend I'm in San Francisco. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I don't want to see Milwaukee in the finals. Like I just hope the Warriors just finish with a better record and Geez, Lopez.
Can
Like
they finish with a better record? It's possible, I guess, if they just start losing games. But the Bucks are looking pretty much
no,
like
the Bucks are gonna wrap it up. I think the
yeah.
Warriors are probably gonna finish with like 57
Oh,
wins.
okay. Yeah.
They're probably gonna finish with like they're gonna probably go 57-25 or something. But the Bucks are probably gonna finish with about 61 or 62 wins. I
Yeah.
think I just don't think, but I'm hoping that either the Raptors or the Celtics or one of those
Good move,
teams
bro.
make the
Oh
finals
damn, you
and
can't miss that.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel you.
They're a good team, man. Like I'm watching this game, Milwaukee and Houston, and they're in every passing lane.
Yeah.
So here's a typical example, right? Harden can't do like the 50 step backs in this game. Like if he does like the 50 step backs game in a game like this, they're down by 20, right? Like he has to play like actual basketball now. See, and they stole
Yeah.
the ball. They denied it. Like, yeah, that's funny. Yeah, so they're good for a reason, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I
It's just
I
crazy how Harden plays. It's so different. Hold on. I'm back on. All right, I'm back. I'm back.
yeah.
Yeah. It's just I think it's just crazy how they play hard, how they have to play hard, and Harden has his team like literally playing 2-3 zones sometimes just to or like a one in box type defenses just to
Yeah,
really get Harden out of certain areas that he likes to be in, and even just forcing him like super hard right. Like I've never seen anything like it before. They're forcing him hard right, and they're forcing him to where like there's help for sure inside, where there's a big in the just shadowing the paint
yeah.
and shadowing the paint and the Capella, and then they just have like their person on ball just force them all the way right, and it's crazy to me, like because
That's why
you would never do something like that in a basketball game, no matter who you're guarding. Like you would just never force them hard one direction.
that's why Kobe's says that in the postseason you can't win like that, and he's right. You can't win like that. The Spurs, the Spurs could beat the Rockets in a series.
You think
Um,
so? I wouldn't
yeah,
want them to. We were talking about that. I really would want the Spurs to win, but I
the
don't know.
Spurs,
I mean, they could. I mean, they could have a chance because they're so well coached and everything.
the Spurs could beat them in a series because in 2017, right?
Uh huh.
I I heard people say like the same thing, right? About how how the Rockets couldn't or how the Spurs they don't think the Spurs would have a chance because they spread the floor and they shoot threes and they do this and they do that. And the Spurs
Yeah.
just took away the 3 point line and you're like, okay, go ahead and take that long two. You know what I mean? And if you're not
Uh
taking those long twos up like all year, you're not gonna make them. You know what I mean? Like in the playoffs when it's you know what I mean? So that's kind
yeah.
of what they did. And but that's kind of where CP3 helps as well. But
Mhm.
I think it's a tough proposition with the Rockets. Like I think if you catch him at the right time, and then Harden is like he's missing those step back threes, dude. Those step
Yeah.
back threes in the playoffs when you're playing like 40 something minutes a game, like it just doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it, like his percentages fall off in the playoffs, right? Like they do. There's very few
Mhm.
runs that I've seen like where you actually increase from your regular season to the postseason, right? In 17, Curry, Kawhi, LeBron, KD, they all improved, right? Harden
Yeah.
is the one where he actually decreased from regular season to postseason, right? Like that postseason is when like everyone kind of stepped their games up. And then, but it's because of the type of basketball that was being played. Like I think everyone is switching now, and everyone is just playing in the mud right now, or they will play in the mud in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But I think if you're playing that style, like it hurts the quote unquote stats basically. But for
Mm-hmm.
for a player like Curry and all of that, he's going to increase from regular season to postseason this year. There's just too much talent. Like you can't guard him.
Yeah.
LeBron probably would have stayed around the same because they don't have shooting. KD is probably he's just flatline basically. Like he's just super consistent and he's just going to do what he does all year long. And the Rockets are going to fall off. Now, Harden, for the Rockets to have a chance, Harden has to produce what he produced from the regular season. But that's hard because he's not going to go to the free throw line 15 times a game. Like, where's he at in this game? I haven't looked at the stats yet. In terms of free throws.
Harden? Let me peep. I
Yeah.
haven't looked at the numbers either. Harden right now, he has attempted no free throws.
And look at the game. I mean, and the Rockets are shooting well, so that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like, if he's not marching to the line, it's really, really tough on the Rockets. Like their offense is dependent on Harden getting to the line. So if you're not getting to the line 15 times a game for him, it's really tough for them to win, man. I mean, he has 2 threes attempted, right?
Yeah.
They're just forcing him to go
no.
to the rim. So if you look at it, they're right? They're staying on his left hand, and they're just saying like, "Yo, go to the rim, and we're not going to foul you," right? Like it's actually a good strategy. So if you do that, you take away their advantage, right? So now his 5 for 12, right, is like a real 5 for 12. Like it doesn't have any threes and it doesn't have any free throws. You know what I mean? Like we did like the true shooting and the effective field goal, right? It's gonna tell you that it's that 5 of 12 or it's that 42%. You know what I mean? Like it's like a true 42%, right? So if that's what you need to do with them, and I don't think a lot of teams are disciplined enough to where they have like long enough defenders that can guard him and like force him into twos and layups and all of that and like keep him off the line, right? Like he mesmerizes you into fouls, and that's why he falls off so much, because then he runs into a smarter team that's just seeing what he's doing and they just adjust to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why he kind of like, don't get me wrong, like he's a fucking genius player, but you cannot have that kind of usage like for a whole 7-game series, right? Like the only people that's really capable of like having that kind of usage is LeBron. It's because LeBron is bigger, stronger, and faster than everyone, right? And he can just overpower any defender that you put in front of him. So Harden is not that. Harden is like free throws and whatever. And if that's going for him, like he's gonna look like the best player in the league. You know what I mean? So that's pretty much what it comes down to. And it's been the same way for the last 5 or 6 years with him. He has just taken more shots, right? So that's why when people say, "Oh, Harden the MVP," blah 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 blah, and I'm like, what he does is excellent, but he's just upped his usage from year to year to year. That's the only thing that changed, right? Like he just takes a little bit more shots than he did. He takes a few more threes, and that's pretty much what it comes down to. Like his percentages haven't increased. like he's probably shooting worse from three than he did last year, but he's just taking more, right? And it just looks ridiculous, right? So to award him the MVP based on usage, I was like, that's kind of ridiculous, right? Like,
Yeah.
it kind of has to result in wins, you know what I mean? And it did last year, and he won the MVP, and he should have. He probably should have won in 17. That's kind of a toss-up for me because him and Westbrook were doing the same damn thing over and over again, and we just ignored the Warriors winning 67 games because KD and Steph played together, but we're just going to ignore KD missed 6 weeks and a 114 in a row, so that doesn't qualify. He's on a loaded team. He's disqualified, right? So he's never going to win that. He has to shoot 50, 50, 90 for him to win, apparently.
Yeah.
But it's kind of tough. It's going to be tough on Hardman, like, because this game is like dependent on three people, right? Like if those three people aren't calling fouls, and if the other team isn't fouling you, like, and you're just throwing up these floaters and you're missing, right? It's kind of tough because that's kind of what's been happening in on this game. Like, once you take away the math part of it, and then you have like defenders like helping, and it's like a bunch of length, like things can get ugly real quick, you know. And then you have to depend on your role players making threes. Yeah. That's where the whole thing falls apart. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm like, I don't know that they can beat the Warriors this year. Like, when people are saying that they took them to 7, I mean, those games could have gone either way, man. I mean, that game that the Warriors lost at Oracle, they just said, KD, you beat us. And it was that same thing, you know?
Yeah.
And they just mucked up the game, basically. Like, Harden and CP3 shot combined of like 41%, you know? Combined. Mm-hmm. Like, your two dudes who takes most of the shots, most of the best, they shot like 41% combined. Right? Yeah. So, I mean, they just mucked up the game, and they just made buckets, timely buckets, you know? So, that's not going to beat the Warriors this year. Not with Boogie camped out and you're asking Capella to guard him. You know, like, that's not going to work. He's just going to eat him alive if that's the strategy that they go with. But if they're going to say they're going to hunt Steph on mismatches, all they're going to do is just take Boogie out the game and just go with that strategy, and they just help. They just help like crazy, right? So, I mean, if that's what you're going to go with, that's not going to work because they're just not going to foul you. And then you're going to have to stop the other team at the other end. I mean, you take away something, you have to, like, you're going to give something up, you know? So,
yeah.
We'll see, though.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. You got anything else to say before we end it, though?
Nah. I'm talked out.
For sure, man. It was good having you. It's always good talking hoops with you, bro.
All right, man. Have a good one.
All right, you too, man.
All right.
And that's going to do it. That's the end of this podcast. Podcast brought to you by Bucket Gator. It's been your boy Tabiso, and I'm out for today, y'all. Peace.